No Russia sympathizers. Ukraine eyes post-war elections. Ukraine needs to think about how to protect itself from Russian interference in elections. Top election official says Ukraine might still be at war, but it's already gearing up for elections in peacetime and weighing how to deal with Russian infiltrators. Hundreds of miles from the battlefield, Ukrainian officials were in Brussels last week to discuss how to organize the country's first post-war elections, which will be closely watched within the European Union. And in this sphere, too, fear of Russian interference looms large. In an interview with Politico, Ukraine's top election official, Ola Dydenko, said his country needed to prepare for the risk that Russia would try to install their representatives, their agents, in Ukrainian authorities. Ukraine was set to hold a parliamentary election in October and a presidential election next year, but preparations for both of these have been put on hold because of the war. I understand that Ukraine should ensure democratic standards when conducting post-war elections in terms of the rights of being elected, said Dydenko, who is the head of Ukraine's Central Electoral Commission, CESE. But, he added, Ukraine needs to think about how to protect itself from such interference and prevent threats to the national security. Russia's ongoing war has paused Ukraine's democratic life. According to the Constitution, no elections, parliamentary or presidential, can take place while the country is under martial law, which President Volodymyr Zelensky declared the morning Russia's full-scale invasion began, and has maintained ever since. But fears of Russian interference are just one of many hurdles Ukraine will face in setting up its first post-war elections. They will also need to take into account the more than 8 million Ukrainians, roughly 20% of the population, who have fled Russian aggression and are currently living abroad. That's why Ukrainian officials were in Brussels last week, where they sat down with election officials from other European countries to discuss how to facilitate voting for refugees. Increasing the number of polling stations in third countries, but also introducing new voting methods, like electronic or postal voting, are some of the technical options on the table, Dydenko said. But the new voting model will be a political decision, as the final decision will be taken by Ukraine's parliament. We have to make sure that whatever choice is being made is first supported by all political forces in Ukraine, but secondly, that it can carry the trust of citizens, said Sam van der Stock, Director of Europe Program at International IDEA, a pro-democracy intergovernmental organization which organized the discussions in Brussels, together with the European Parliament. Ukraine has to get it right from the outset, because everyone is watching, including Russia, he added. Kyiv has already taken steps to limit the influence of pro-Russia parties, which have long been used by the Kremlin to exert influence on Ukrainian politics. Last May, Zelensky signed off on a ban against all 11 of the country's pro-Kremlin parties accused of undermining Ukraine's sovereignty. The opposition Platform for Life, the largest pro-Russian party, which used to be the second biggest political force in the Ukrainian parliament, tried to challenge the ban in court, but it was eventually upheld by the Ukrainian Supreme Court in September 2022. In January, Zelensky also stripped 4 lawmakers of their Ukrainian citizenship for collaborating with Moscow, threatening national security and spreading the Kremlin's propaganda. Among them, Viktor Medvedchuk, an oligarch who was once considered Russian President Vladimir Putin's top ally in Ukraine. But some pro-Kremlin politicians are still active. The remaining MPs from opposition Platform for Life were split into 2 newly created groups, Platform for Life and Peace, led by Yuri Boyko, a former energy minister and known pro-Russian figure, and Restoration of Ukraine. Asked if Ukrainian authorities would consider banning them again from running in a post-war election, Dydenko, the top elections official, said it was not up to the CC to decide. The decision was taken on a case basis by the court after careful consideration of the party's activities and agenda, Dydenko said, stressing it was not a groundless ban. But Russia's offensive against Ukrainian democracy will not stop with the war, Dydenko said. We have a neighbor terrorist and it will not disappear after our victory. It will still be here. F-16s are great, but what about other options such as Sweden's Gripen? Sweden has announced that it was ready to provide orientation and familiarization training to Ukrainian pilots on its frontline fighter aircraft, but says it has none to offer. Swedish Defense Minister Pal Johnson, recently voiced an offer to provide familiarization training for a few Ukrainian pilots on the Saab-built Jaz-39 Gripen, a fourth-generation plus fighter. Like the recent exploratory sessions conducted at the Marion Air National Guard Base in Tucson, Arizona, this would serve only as familiarization, not qualification training. Ukrainian pilots would get some simulator sorties in the aircraft and a handful of orientation flights in the jet itself. It's about orientation training, Johnson said. Johnson made the statement on Sweden's TV4 during a recent visit to Ukraine. Johnson and Civil Defense Minister Carl Oskar Bolin were on an official visit to Ukraine to visit military units that already use Swedish defense material. While not a current offer to provide aircraft, it does open a door on another option to advance Ukraine's ability to achieve air superiority in the future. The Saab Jaz-39 Gripen. The Gripen is a single-engine, lightweight multi-role fighter aircraft that has been in service with the Swedish Air Force since 1996. To date, 271 aircraft have been produced and provided to Sweden, Czechia, Hungary, and South Africa. The Delta Wing aircraft is extremely agile, with its forward canard controls, making it a very capable within visual range dogfight platform. This is enhanced using fly-by-wire computer technology with relaxed stability, meaning it can, like other computer-assisted control systems used in the F-16 and other Western fighters, fly at the edge of the in-control flight envelope at high and low air speeds. Three other aspects of the Gripen stand out, besides its agility, and its low altitude beyond visual range missile capability against enemy combat aircraft, including fighters, bombers, cruise missiles, and drones. While the U.S. AIM-120 is a solid rocket motor-propelled missile that burns out after a relatively short time, the Gripen's Meteor air-to-air missile uses a ramjet engine that can propel the weapon throughout its entire flight profile with speeds reaching Mach 4. The AIM-120 is in use by F-16s and other U.S. and Allied fighters is optimally employed at higher altitudes and higher speeds to optimize its range and end-game maneuverability. This environment would expose Ukrainian Air Force pilots to the formidable S-300 and S-400 and S-400 surface-tier missiles. The advantage of the Meteor is that it continues to be powered through a longer time period during its pursuit of its target, meaning it can be fired from lower altitude and at subsonic speeds. An environment which is safer for non-stealthy aircraft when faced with the SAMs Ukraine would most likely face. This is the airspace that Ukrainian Air Force MiG-29s and Su-27s have currently been operating, where they use low-level flight to use terrain to mask them from the ground-based, long-range anti-aircraft weapons the Russians are using. The Meteor missile is also designed to kill any flying weapons system, airplanes, drones, cruise missiles, even in the presence of electronic countermeasures such as jamming, decoying, etc. Perfect for the situation in which Ukraine finds itself. Its range is less than that of an AIM-120, but the Meteor's respectable 100 kilometers reach will outperform anything Russia currently has. Its ability to operate from off airfields. The Gripen's ability to operate from rudimentary, rough airfields, and even highways allowing aircraft dispersal to multiple locations would greatly enhance the survivability of these fighters. They were specifically designed at the strategic military planning level to face an invasion by Russia. They can operate from bare-bones locations that would present big challenges to other Western jets. They are designed to take off and land at short runway airfields with lower maintenance requirements in these environments compared with other Western fighters. The Gripen is relatively low cost but delivers on quality. The Gripen is a relatively inexpensive fighter to fly and maintain. The approximate cost per operational flying hour based on 2022 figures is approximately $6,000 for the Gripen, compared with $9,000 for the F-16 and around $26,000 for the F-6,000 for the F-35 stealth fighter, which is almost invisible to Russian radars, including the Su-300 and S-400 systems. Running costs for comparable fourth-generation plus non-stealthy options include the Typhoon Eurofighter at $22,000, the French Rafale at $21,000, and the US 18A Hornet at $14,000. What has Sweden offered Ukraine? The offer to provide training is not a commitment to provide aircraft to the Ukrainian Air Force. In the same interview, the minister said that all the Gripen aircraft in Sweden's inventory are in active use by their air force for their own defense against possible attack by Russia. We need them for the defense of our territory right now, but we are opening up for letting the Ukrainians test the Gripen, he told TV4. While they have 204 of these jets in their possession, many are in storage. But could Ukraine actually get the Jas-39 somehow from somewhere? Could Ukraine get the Jas-39 Gripen from somewhere else? Besides the Swedish Air Force, other countries that currently field the Gripen are South Africa, Czechia, and Hungary. The Czech Air Force has committed all of its Jas-39s in support of NATO, as has Poland in respect of its F-16s. The equivocation evident in Hungary's relationship with Moscow, in spite of being a NATO member, makes it unlikely that it would provide any defense assistance to Ukraine, particularly in giving up its fighters, help Ukraine to gain air superiority over Russia by. South Africa is unlikely to provide the jets either. Its Gripens are in operational use, and the government continues to court its decades-long relationship with Russia. Given that air forces friendly to Ukraine don't have jets available to provide Ukraine, the only way to get them would be to acquire new production aircraft from the factory. Brand new aircraft, as opposed to those currently available in Allies' inventories, would take years for Ukraine to secure, not the months its current needs require. This does not only apply to the Gripen, but the acquisition of any new 4th generation plus or 5th generation stealth Western aircraft. For example, US made F-35, which is service with the US and other NATO air forces, including the US and other NATO air forces, including the UK, Norway, the Netherlands, and Poland. Poland has ordered 32 F-35 fighters. According to Lockheed Martin's website, Poland concluded its fighter acquisition program with the signing of a letter of offer and acceptance between the US and Polish governments on Jan 31, 2020 for 32 F-3020 for 32 F-35 jets, with initial deliveries beginning in 2024 in TN 2024 and in-country deliveries in 2020. New aircraft acquisition takes time, a lot of time. Would the Jas-39 Gripen be suitable for Ukraine in any case? Definitely. If Ukraine acquired the Gripen, it would greatly enhance its ability to dominate its skies. If a way could be found to provide a couple of dozen of the aircraft within the next year, it would, I believe, be a speedier solution than that offered by F-16s, given that it was specifically designed at a total military force level to respond to a full-scale invasion of the nation where it not only operates, but where it lands and takes off, makes it perhaps a great choice for Ukraine. The problem is they aren't available right now. But with an eye toward the future, the option of mixed aircraft with different operational missions is something to consider. For instance, with F-16s operating as the main aircraft and the Gripen as the main aircraft and the Gripen as a remote airfield fighter, for instance. Then, in the following few years, the F-35 in its F-35, a conventional version, or F-35V, STOL, vertical and short field takeoff and landing configuration, would not only strengthen the Ukrainian Air Force, but, as a hopefully by then NATO member, the democratic world in Europe and beyond. In the meantime, Ukraine should take all the opportunities it is presented to explore the fighter aircraft the West has to offer and fight to get the training, aircraft, and support equipment and infrastructure it needs for this war that Russia brought to Ukraine. The Swedish defense minister summed up the goals of the orientation training. This gives Ukraine a basis for future decisions to rearm its defense. They are investing in strengthening their capabilities in the long term. Unfortunately, the path to add the Saab Jas-39 Gripen, which is a great platform, to the Ukrainian Air Force's arsenal is not going to be as simple or as quick as we would like it to be. Right now, Ukraine can take it for a test drive, but will have to wait a while for delivery.